10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Evening everyone, and welcome to Cherry's Red Army YouTube channel. We are here with another match preview, and with the transfer deadline day a few hours away from closing, I'm sure there'll be more conversations to be had. I have a couple of guests with me this evening to discuss the match. Before we do that, why don't you join in with your comments and chat, and I'll try and include as many as them throughout the show. Also, make sure you like and subscribe, and we'll get straight to it. And my AFC Bournemouth guest on this evening is Sammy Nell. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you.
How's your day? How you been?
Yeah, not too bad.
Okay, and just tell us a little bit about Talking Cherries and how that's going.
Oh, yeah, it's going really well. So obviously initially the whole point was we were going to have social events. And then obviously COVID kicked in, and that's been kind of put on hold. So we decided to do some Zoom chats instead, and try and sort of engage with people that way. So yeah, if anyone sees a Zoom chat advertised for Talking Cherries, they should come on. And we're not just sat around talking about mental health. We just sit around and chat literally about everything and anything that comes up. Like last time, we were all comparing our favourite bits of memorabilia from the Cherries. My favourite away day, home match. So yeah, everyone should come and join in.
And it's a really good incentive, and it's brilliant. I've been on it before. I've really enjoyed myself. And if you're not following Talking Cherries yet on Twitter, look in the description below, and you can follow, as I said, and it's some great people in there and some great conversations. So keep up the good work with that, Sammy.
I would just say, because obviously what we want to do is people to familiarise themselves with us. If they do ever need to get in touch with us over a mental health concern, they'll be a little bit more familiar with us and be able to contact us and feel a bit more comfortable chatting. So
okay, so let's get on with the show. And as we normally do, we're not going to hide away from it. We normally recap our last fixture, which was Friday night versus Reading, a 3-1 loss, 3-0 down at half time. What's your thoughts on what happened Friday?
Well, really actually been trying to forget all about it, to be honest with you, Kirk. But, it's kind of what most people have said, really, isn't it? It was a bit of a shambles. Not really anything much positive to say. So, like you say, the players just need a bit of a kick up the arse and a bit of team spirit to come back, really.
And can we take anything from the second half performance, not conceding, scoring a goal?
Well, yeah, if you've got to find a positive anywhere, I suppose the subs that came on, they probably had a little bit more about them than we did in the first half, but I guess they were bound to. They'd wanted to come on and prove a point. But, at the end of the day, at that point, we were just trying what we could, and it really didn't really make much difference, really.
And before we come on to Sheffield Wednesday and tomorrow night's game at 7:00, the sort of weekend was sort of brushed over with some transfer news. Dan Gosling left to go to Watford, originally declined an offer from Nottingham Forest, said he was willing to stay and fight. Then he went off to Watford. I mean, what did you think when that news came through?
Pretty gutted, to be fair, that he's gone. Just probably nostalgia more than anything. But to go to Watford, probably a bit more of a kick in the teeth. But I kind of can see why he's gone. He probably wants to secure his future a little bit, maybe. So you can't, especially if he's had a conversation and been told that he's not going to play, he's not going to make the team. I think I read somewhere as well that he'd actually said, obviously, he turned down Notts Forest. But then obviously when we signed Pearson, it was a bit got no chance now then, have I? So he probably kind of, at that point, thought, I do need to make a move.
I mean, from a fan perspective, we want players on that pitch that are going to fight and put some effort in, because we're lacking that at the moment. And Dan Gosling was definitely one of them. Probably on paper, from a technical ability, he probably doesn't make the starting lineup quite regularly. But for where we are at the moment, we need to battle to get some points, and I think he could have helped. But from his personal perspective, he probably made the decision that was right for him. So Sheffield Wednesday, the first game between the teams in the league was back on the 3rd of November. It was our first loss of the season, a night where we struggled to create a lot. And Sheffield Wednesday had a good game plan. They got away with the 1-0 and Steve Cook got sent off. Your recollection on that game?
Well, I was lucky enough to actually be at work and not have to watch it, for one. But I did listen to bits on the way home. And yeah, I just think really in a way, you know, from that point on, we've kind of like shown ourselves up a little bit, really. We've struggled a little bit probably from then on, really. First loss, obviously the whole Lerma situation arising from that game.
Yeah.
You know, which I don't know, but, you know, is that situation hanging over his head? Has that got anything to do with his lack of form at the moment? You know, Jeff Lerma is one of my favourite players, but would he make my team at the moment? Find out in a bit.
We'll find out later, won't we? But it is one of those games where I actually thought we got beat. I think Sheffield Wednesday did very well and had a good game plan. And it was one of those times that I thought we are beatable and we are going to have to earn some points in this league. And as the season's developed, and especially as we've got into January, it has turned out to be like that. So today is transfer deadline day, and JT took his press conference, which was heavy on the transfers. One of the first news, though, to come out was the appointment of Jonathan Woodgate, and he replaced Graham Jones, who went to Newcastle. A defender by trade, had a pretty good career, had some big moves, but he's coming to the club. I'm not sure if you know a lot about Jonathan Woodgate, Sammy, but what's your feeling on that, on him coming into the club?
I only kind of really know what I've read about him, obviously, since he's been linked to the club. Obviously a great player by all accounts, but I'm not so sure his, you know, coaching or managerial experiences have been great for him. So I don't know. And again, like you say, he was a defender. We seem to have a lot of defensive coaching around. Maybe that doesn't make a difference. I don't know. I'm not a coach. I wouldn't know. But I don't know. Just in my mind, it's kind of like, do we need someone, especially as we seem to be really struggling up front to score, to just, you know, have any creativity? Is that maybe because we need some sort of coaching up front a little bit more? Who knows?
We'll find out. As you said, that's the fourth coach now we've got in the backroom staff that is a defender. Not a lot of offensive coaches in there. We've got Steve Fletcher, obviously, but we'll see if there's the right balance there as we move on towards the end of the season. Transfer news, Matt Ritchie, on, off, been on in the summer, then was off, back on, and looks like it's not going to go through again.
But then it's not 11 o'clock yet, is it? But it does look like it's off. But, you know, this is transfer deadline day. Anything can happen still, can it? You know? And
some players that we've got, two players who are running out of contract, or three players actually, but two that look like they've already pre-agreed contracts with Rangers. That's Namdi Offerball and Jack Simpson. And JT said in his press conference that he's loaned them back out. So it looks like Simpson's going to Rangers on loan until that contract comes live. And Namdi's going to Wickham. He said there's no point in them hanging around because they probably won't put in 100%. However, if Josh King stays, is he going to give 100%?
100%. Yeah, obviously. I don't quite like the logic there. To be fair, I like Josh King, and I think he's not played too bad for us the last few games he's played. But will he be good old Josh King? You know, probably not quite. But then, if we get something out of him, as long as he's on the pitch wanting to play football, and even if he's trying 75%, if he's still with us, it's better than trying 25%, I guess. But yeah, I don't think his head's going to be in at 100%, is it, realistically?
Yeah, absolutely. And as we look at tomorrow night's game, then player availability, JT said he pretty much had a full squad to pick from. He was happy with what Junior Stanislas came through the game quite well, so he's pretty fit. Is it a good thing or a bad thing that he's got a full squad to pick from, Sammy?
Well, I don't know, to be fair, it gives him too much choice, doesn't it? He might as well just chuck all the names in a hat and pick out 11, the way we're going, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, it might actually help, you know.
Junior Stanislas was the bright spark, though, I think, the other night.
Yeah, definitely, you know, I think he played really well. But then when JT said he was a bit worried about playing him because he wasn't quite fit, you kind of think, all right, he played 10 minutes. Can we really judge how fit he is or how much he has come back from that injury on 10 minutes worth of playing. So I am still a little bit concerned about how fit he actually might be. But yeah, he was definitely a bright spark. And I do think he is one of the players that will play for us. He's always been a little bit inconsistent, but that's Junior Stanislas, isn't it? So
and at the end of the show, as we always do, we're going to try and find out, or we'll try and see what JT can do with that squad to put the best team on the pitch that can beat Sheffield Wednesday. Right, for everyone who's watching, please keep commenting below. Let us know what you think throughout the show. We'll drop as many comments on the screen. And my second guest is a Sheffield Wednesday fan, and welcome him in now. And he is Dex. How are you?
I'm well, mate. And yourselves?
Yeah, well, if we get a win tomorrow night, I feel a lot better. But yeah, not too bad. Just tell us a little bit about what you do for Sheffield Wednesday and your YouTube, and I think you do some podcasting as well.
Yeah, so I'm a general championship creator, basically, but I'm a Wednesday fan. So since lockdown, it's been focused on Wednesday. We've got the Talking Wednesday podcast, things like that. We've just started to build a lot of Wednesday watch-alongs and things, but it started as sort of a general sort of champ, because not enough championship things covered just the general championship. It was a lot of Prem stuff. I think I did a video the other day on one of your Bournemouth players that you'd have back, and I said potentially Mings would walk straight back into your side in his current form, and I got a bit of stick from that from some Bournemouth fans. But I said current form, right? Not while he was with you. Current form. I think he would get in the championship side. Yeah, but apparently his time with you wasn't so great, and I was told that very loud, which is fair enough. But yeah, so general championship content, but Wednesday focused at the minute during lockdown.
Brilliant. And Dex's details on his YouTube are in the description below. I've watched some of the stuff, and it's a really interesting watch. So Sheffield Wednesday, we'll look at the first game between the teams and get your thoughts on that 1-0 win that you gave us, our first loss of the season.
Well, it was one of our first wins of the season. It wasn't our first one, but it was pretty much coming around there. So as you can tell, teams on opposite ends of form the time that match came around. Wednesday needed it. It was a scrappy one. Getting the penalty, obviously, with the drama with the Reds, because I think we both had a red in that game. Yeah. It turned our fortunes around a tiny little bit, as in we could kick on a little bit from that. But then we had some better performances, but results didn't really pick up until we got rid of Pulis and that, and we ended up with, because I think Monk was in charge at Bournemouth, wasn't he? That's how far the season's gone. We're on our caretaker manager after we've gone through Pulis as well. So it was a good 3 points, but it was a shock 3 points. And I remember I wasn't streaming the game that night because I expected us to get battered, and that did not happen. We got the penalty and then Bannon put it away.
And we'll talk a bit about Bannon in a moment, but it was his pass that lobbed over Steve Cook. As Steve Cook made the decision to pull your striker back, led to the penalty, which Bannon put away. A player that sometimes is underrated but goes under the radar, does his job magnificently, I think, sometimes.
Oh, well, let him go under the radar, because the thing is, once a team at the lower end of the Prem or the top end of the Champ gets to sniff that his contract's running out, I just need him to sign a new deal, because he is absolute quality most games. And the thing is, he became one of those figures. We have a tendency in some sectors of our fan base to sort of find a new scapegoat for when things aren't going well. And the same sort of element of our fan base went for Bannon for a while. And if you watch Bannon play any match, he's the only one making it happen. And where you will struggle is if Bannon can get his through balls through, because he's been on it recently with his assists from those through balls. I think it was similar with the pull down, wasn't it? For Cook that time. So his through ball vision, he can do it from our half and find a man running through. So that's one of our only real attacking threats.
He's a lot like the player we've got now in Jack Wilshere. He's one of those players that can see a pass that a lot of footballers can't. So I would definitely agree with you there. Started the season on -12, got readjusted to -6. You're looking like you're 4 points from getting out of the relegation zone. And is it one of those seasons you just want to get out of the way and make sure you're still in the Championship?
Oh, as soon as the points deduction thing, it was a write-off. I just thought you need to stabilise. We need to actually just make sure we can stay up and then kick on, because the worry I've got, people are saying, let's go down and rebuild, but there's so much money in the game now. You'll know, as a recently relegated Prem side, we go down to League One, there's a salary cap in there now even, so we don't really want to be dealing with that, because we're already getting hounded for financial fair play because we've got a rich owner who wants to spend money, but the system in place in the Championship's not allowing it to happen. So that's why we got punished. And it's just a case of, in a way, if we can stabilise in about a season's time, we'll be able to give it another go and we'll have free spend again. We've just got to stay up, otherwise it's all gone. We're in trouble.
And from an outsider's point of view, I look at Sheffield Wednesday and it almost looks like if you win a few matches, if you're the manager, your job might be on the line, because it looked like Monk lost his job after winning and drawing a few games. And then the same thing happened to Pulis. Now, I think probably there's more deeper issues with regards to Pulis. But for a new manager that might be coming in, potentially, is it like I'm seeing it, or?
Not really, because the thing is, our chairman sets the expectations very clearly, and we should not. The thing with Pulis was 1 win in 9, and yes, we had squad issues, but 1 win in 9 and a manager who was brought in purely for results. There was also a drama behind the scenes. Apparently, Pulis went off at some players. Chansiri was sticking by the players. All of that and the results factored into it. But with Monk, it was weird because I watched pretty much all of Monk. Well, I watched all of Monk's matches this season, even if I didn't stream them, and they were. His performances are good, and his tactics, he's got the right idea, but he needed to realise that he didn't have the system in place and those players needed more time. And the kind of football he was trying to play works if you're not trying to stay up from a points deduction. So that's why he got sacked, because even though he started getting a couple of wins, there was still no change from him. There was still no change in the tactics to get. We needed a nasty manager. We needed a Warnock style to stay up, and Monk wasn't that. Pulis was meant to be that, and then he was worse. So it was just the luck of the draw with that one, unfortunately.
And when I look at your squad and I think, right, where could potentially Sheffield Wednesday hurt us, or where are the sort of danger areas? And we talked about Bannon. You've got some players in there that on their day can win a football match. You look at players like Adam Reach. I mean, I always think Adam Reach has got a 25-yarder in him. Jordan Rhodes, I mean, Championship pedigree.
Nah, you're all right.
He's all right there. I mean, you've got players like...
if he starts, you're winning. I love Jordan Rhodes, and he's a really nice guy, and he's got the football professionalism and that. But we have ruined him, and now he can't hit a barn door for us. So
it's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, it's mental.
And then you've got players like Marriott, who I assume came from Derby, and Patterson from Cardiff. But your top goal scorer is only 4. Is that where the sort of problems lie?
We haven't been able to score goals. A lot of that, admittedly, those 9 games of Pulis were, let's just park 2 buses on this pitch and see what happens, and then hoof it over them and try and get a scrappy goal. We've got 2 attacking options at the minute that we seem to be utilising. We seem to be utilising Patterson and Windass. If we're going with Patterson, if we start Patterson tomorrow, it means we're going to go for a scrappy game and going to try and get a scrappy goal off it because he's really good at that. If we start Windass, we're going to try and hit you with pace from the off. We start a Windass and Kachunga. No, we start a Patterson and Kachunga. And that could be a new one, you see. We've only done that for 1 match. Kachunga from Huddersfield did well at Huddersfield, was a winger, plays as a centre forward for us. The pace of Kachunga and the scrappiness of Patterson worked really well against Preston because they were distracted by Kachunga's pace and Patterson could get in and do the dirty work. So it was a case of if that's a tactic that Neil wants to try now, because it's worked against Preston, I could see us lining up with Patterson and Kachunga starting tomorrow.
Okay. And as we look at your current form, you're doing pretty well. I think you've won 4, drawn 1 and lost 1 in the last 6. Not a lot of goals in there scored and not a lot conceded. So that does concern me because we've only scored 4 in 7. It looks like you are building on something to try and climb as high as you can.
I think it's a case of the players have. I said a little bit before to you that the players have got their shackles off because they've been under 2 managers with very different play styles, and now this caretaker manager's come in who's known this team and known the people that have been in the squad for 5+ years and gone, I'm just going to play what you want to do. We're against relegation. You're not enjoying your football. Let's just go and attack teams, and we do. I have noticed that we aren't sitting on a lead anymore. When we were 1-0 up against Preston in that second half, we weren't trying to sit back on it, even though we were desperate for the points. We were going to kill the game off because the one thing about us, if we sit on a 1-goal lead, I get nervous because we are really good defensively, but that's usually when we're at 0-0. If we've got a goal, we concede late on.
And my next question was, was the 1-0 against Preston a comfortable 1-0?
It was a scrappy match, but I don't think Preston could say that they deserved to win it. They could have probably argued that they could have got something out of it, but we nullified them and we played a scrappy game, and it wasn't pretty football, but the actual intent from those players, you could see after the Coventry loss, the players were trying to prove something at Preston, and for once this season that actually paid off, and we got the win and we fought it out, and everybody sort of put in a shift that day.
Tomorrow night then, Dex, how does it play out? What's the outcome? What's the score?
Is Wilshere fit, by the way? Is he fit for you?
He's fit. Whether he starts is another question, but he's fit.
Because I want to see that battle. I kind of don't. That battle between Wilshere and Bannon in the midfield, that would be a bit of a spectacle. But I reckon, as I said, we either set up to attack you from the off or we try and get you on the counter. I don't think, especially after last time, we'll set up for a draw, because I don't feel like we can afford it at this stage. I reckon we'll try and attack you early on. And I think that might be a thing of your managerial team might think you desperately need a win as well. So it might be a case of they know you're going to attack us, and that, if we play our cards right, might suit us down to the ground. But I'm never really confident. So I will say that you will probably edge it in a 2-1 if you'd fancy scoring 2 goals.
Yeah. And I think your manager and your team will probably be looking at some of the fixtures we've had at home where we've struggled against Luton and other games like that. And Preston was another one. And they'll probably be looking to deliver maybe similar tactics. But hopefully our manager can come up trumps. Now, obviously, we hope you don't win, Dex, but we do appreciate you coming on the show. We wish you all the best. And we hope you enjoy the game tomorrow.
Yep, I hope we both enjoy the game, and it's for different reasons. So have a good one. Thanks for having me on.
Enjoy the rest of your transfer window as well.
I will, if we actually sign some players. That'd be brilliant.
Cheers, Dex.
See you later.
Cheers. Okay then, Sammy. So from what he's saying there, and he's what way the manager's going to throw the dice tomorrow for Sheffield Wednesday, but they look like they've got a bit of grit about them and a bit of passion.
Yeah. They certainly do. They seem to have been sort of picking up a little bit, haven't they, like over the last few games. And to be fair, like they're going to know that we're pretty shit at the moment, so they're going to be out for a win, aren't they? So
yeah, they've lost 1 in 6, and we've not won many in 6. So it's going to be a good game. I hope it's going to be a good game anyway. Right, what we're going to do at this stage then, as we go through trying to predict the lineup, and we'll discuss that in more detail. Let us know what you think the score will be, and I will then show some at the end of the show. Now, we're going to go a bit differently, Sammy, with this one, because we normally try and predict what JT is going to do. I don't actually think, and agree with me if you wish, I don't think he knows what his best team is, and I don't even think he knows what his best formation is. So, agreed?
Agreed. I mean, I hope that he starts to learn that quite quick, because that could really help our season. But yeah, right now, I reckon we're just lost, aren't we, really? We're just floating.
So I reckon what we do is we switch it up a little bit and we try and look at what JT could pick tomorrow. This might not be based on talent, but a team that's going to give some fight, some urgency and some effort. So if you're happy with that, that's what we're going to achieve. Okay. If JT actually picks this is another question. So we'll just go with it basics. We need to get back to basics on everything. Just go back to running, passing, simple passes, 10-yard passes, and defending. So I've set up a 4-4-2 there. Now, I've gone for Begovic in goal, and for me, it's always Stacey over Smith. So how do you feel about it? Yeah?
Yeah, it definitely, like last match, it was definitely one of the bright sparks. And to be able to say there was actually any bright spark was, so...
Brilliant. Yeah. Steve Cook's in there for me as well.
Definitely.
He didn't have the best game of his life on Friday. Probably the only game this season where he struggled. But I do trust him.
Yeah, the trouble is when the rest of the team around you is playing crap, it kind of rubs off on you, doesn't it? So
yeah. Now, I think this position alongside Steve Cook in a back 4 is I wouldn't play Mepham again after his performance against Reading. I think he shouldn't start. But it's either Carter Vickers or Lloyd Kelly, if you agree.
Yeah, I'm edging Kelly. I don't know why, but I am. So let's go Kelly.
Yeah, and we've not seen a lot of Carter Vickers. He's had a good game in the FA Cup. He then had a game in the Championship, and he did get brought off at half time, whether that was an injury or relating to his first half performance. I think what you get with Kelly on that left-hand side of the centre-back position is that balance. So you've got that right and left footer. So I'm happy to agree with that. This is the one then, and I think everyone who's watching will agree, is no one's nailing down that left back consistently. And I think go for it.
Definitely.
Gordon Samura.
Give him a chance. Left footer. You know, no one else is playing that position well, so why shouldn't he get given a shot? You know, he's got something to prove, and he wants to make the starting 11. Let's give him a shot and see what he does. He can't do any worse than, you know, what Rico and Kelly have there, and Adam Smith recently. So put him in there.
Absolutely. Even if it's just for Sheffield Wednesday, even if it's to send a rocket up to a few players, that's a young player that's going to go in there and want to give his all. He's going to have lots of energy, and for me, he's going to be full of enthusiasm. And
exactly. And even if he didn't play the whole game, you know, it's just, I think it's worth giving a shot to see what he's like.
Why not? Now, I've set this up as a normal back four. Now, I would actually, what I'd do with this is turn this into quite a narrow diamond, and there'll be a reason for that. It will mean we'll lack width. However, we have got Stacey, who's young and fit, and we've got Samura now, who's young and fit. So they have got the legs to potentially get up and down that line. Lewis Cook didn't have a good game the other night, but he has been consistent all season. And again, I can't not play him.
Yeah.
I wouldn't play Lerma. I think he struggled in January, and chuck him in. He's come in. AT said that he's brought in a player that's, you know, wanting to fight, wanting to put everything on the line. And if that's the case, I would chuck him in. Would you agree?
He came across really well in his interview as well. I assume you've watched it. Like, he seemed to be up for it. And also, again, I just think it sends out a message to the players that aren't putting it out there, that aren't playing well. It's kind of like, buck your ideas up, because you don't have to play. You know, if you want a place, you've got to fight for it.
Now, these two can play either position, so it doesn't really matter, and they can rotate. But for the next two in midfield, I would go with Stanislas and Wilshere. What's your thinking on that?
Yeah, happy with that. Again, Stanislas, I'd be a little bit worried about whether he really is fit enough. But I think it would be good to start him, hopefully start strong. And then, like you say, he can always be subbed if needs be. I don't think he'd play the full 90. But I think, you know, starting strong in the middle there, yeah, why not?
And some have said also that Pearson could play DM. I haven't got a problem with that. So Lewis Cook can go in there. It's quite a narrow diamond. As I said, there's no width there. But what I do look in that midfield is there is class in that midfield. There is heart. There is bite. And I think with Jeff Lerma, one of my favourite players, he has lost that bite for whatever reason, and he's lost that aggression. But the sooner he gets it back, we will be a better football team. But I like in that midfield already. Two strikers then. Why not? Dom Solanke, I think, has been quite isolated recently. He's not been scoring as well. And Solanke would go in there for me.
Yeah.
And I would get Surridge up with him. What do you think on that?
Again, another one that's not really been given a lot of minutes. But yeah, I think someone that needs to be given a little bit of time to prove himself.
Surridge, who every time he's played this season has always put a shift in, contributed with goals. I think he scored and assisted at Barnsley potentially. He scored against Wickham when we were struggling. Or he made a difference when he came on in that game. And all I find with Surridge is every time he gets a run out, for whatever reason, he doesn't then play for several games. I can't quite understand it. So he does make a difference. Can you put your finger on it, Sammy?
No, I don't know. And I just think sometimes when he's been subbed on as well, he's not been given long enough to really be able to like make a difference or sort of prove himself, really. He's probably could have done with coming on sort of 10 minutes at least before he's been put on every time to, you know, be able to actually do something on the pitch. So, yeah, it'd be good to see him playing more, definitely.
And when we look at that team, there's some big players that are not available or not in that starting lineup. You look at Danjuma and Brooks, and that hurts me. But I think we have to do something like this. As I said, even if it's just a rocket to send up to a few players that you're not droppable, you're not putting in the effort, you're not doing what we need to do, because we've got one shot at this potentially to get promoted, and we need to make sure we don't mess it up. Playoffs is a must. But how do you feel that players like Brooks and players like Danjuma are not in that starting lineup?
To be fair, I said Brooks wouldn't start Friday, and he didn't. And not because I don't want him to, don't think he's talented, but he's just not been there. He's just not been in the game. And it kind of proved it. When he came on half-time, he kind of did make a difference. He was probably the best player on the pitch for us. And it's kind of as if, like, I don't know, is he thinking, oh, well, I'm always going to make the starting 11, so I'm just going to come on and saunter around the pit, do whatever. I'm bound to make the team. So put him on the bench a few times, and maybe he'll be like, no, I really have got to fight for my place in this team. So hopefully, it might give him a bit of a kick up the arse. And Danjuma, I don't know, whenever he started, I haven't found, he's bright to start with, but then he seems to sort of drift off. And I've always found when he's come on his sub, he's just sort of made more of an impact. So I kind of think if we have to sub him on at some point, maybe we can then, keep our push going for the whole 90 rather than sort of dropping off. I don't know.
How confident are you that JT would do something like this, or potentially pick a lineup like this?
How confident? No comment. I really don't know. I don't want to, a lot of people are calling for JT to go. Not sure I'm at that point yet, but I sometimes just don't know where his head's at. It's a bit hard to second guess, really. So I really don't know. Really can't predict that.
We're still in the playoff places. There is an opportunity just to have a go at it tomorrow, switch it up massively, put some youth in there. Let's just, even if we win by 1 goal, we just got to do something. We've got to change this momentum. Could coming into February change that? Could just completely January disappearing and the transfer window disappearing? Yeah.
I do think
could that change it?
And I don't know, it just seems to be when King has been around and playing, I read somewhere, I don't know who, it might have even been you, someone put out that basically our best spell was when King had his migraine and his bad back and his sore toe and his, nosebleed or everything else that he seemed to have. But so I don't know, is that affecting the dressing room? Like all the sort of, and even JT said on the press conference he can't wait for it to be shut. So, and he's seeing that it's affecting the play, and it shouldn't be that much. But for a manager to come out and be that honest about that, it is, it obviously is getting to the players. And yeah, I reckon, come tomorrow, hopefully they'll be like, well, we're here. These are the players that are here with us. Got to play with them till the end of the season to make the most of it. So.
Tomorrow night, kick off at 7:00. What performance are you hoping from when the whistle goes, and what do you reckon the score will be?
Well, like we always say, I hope they start quick, start with a bit of pace, start strong, get an early goal, actually get an early, 10 goals, because then we might be okay for the 90. But I really don't know what to predict, but I've been predicting 3-1 for I don't know how long now. So I'm going to stick with that, because one day it will happen, and it's going to happen tomorrow. 3-1.
Percentages will say that it will happen at some point. So
exactly. So I'm going to stick with it. As soon as I change my mind, it'll go to pot. So
brilliant. It's great to have you on. Follow Sammy on Twitter and also on Talking Cherries as well. Thank you for joining me.
No problemo.
Enjoy the game, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah, cool. See you later.
See you later. Okay, thank you for joining in this evening. As always, really appreciate it. The other day on the weekend, we reached 100 subscribers, so well done to everyone. We really, really, really do appreciate it. Let's see what other scores we've got coming through then. Good evening, Chris. 3-1. Confident. Heather, enjoy the game. 5-2. Cameron Meach, 1-0. Good evening, Cameron. Steve is going for a 2-2. Lynn, good evening. That's 2-1. Mark Cole, always like to hear what Mark Cole's got to say. 2-0, good evening. Who else have we got here coming down the list? I haven't got Morgan's score. He's definitely in the chat. So let me know what your score will be, Morgan. I'll drop it before we finish. Please make sure you like and subscribe. Transfer window today then, it's been more heavy on players going out than players coming in. I also saw something from Rich, which says Everton maybe have bid for Josh King. I don't know how true that is. Rich Neal is not Mark McAdam or Chris Temple. So, but there may be some truth in it. Andrew's gone for 4-3 as well. Who knows? Who knows? What we do need to do is just show a little bit more fight, a little bit more passion, do the basics a lot better. We need to win the football match. It's a must-3. It's a must-win and a must-3 points that we need. I don't think it'll be easy. But one way or another, we got to find a way. Like Sammy says, maybe coming into February will help us and the January transfer window closing. And hopefully we can start building some momentum. There it is. 1-0 for Morgan. And I'm the same as well. Subscribe to the channel for more content. We will be on for lineups live tomorrow night, 45 minutes till kickoff. Hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll catch you tomorrow. See you soon. Up the cherries.